Welcome to my channel, Soul Tree Path. I'm really excited to share with you the information that I have in regards to this big topic of December 21st of 2020, the world ending. Now, I haven't watched a lot of the other videos, but I caught word of this going around, and the first time I heard of this through YouTube, and mind you, I don't know if it's on TV. I literally don't ever watch the news. So I don't know if this is something that's going around in a bigger platform, but I first saw it on YouTube and I'm like, I know that date. And I looked at my calendar and I already had it marked on my calendar since July. I went back and did my research of when I found this information. And I'm going to share with you everything that I had learned back in July from the source of the person who brought this information forward that I know of. You know, I'm always open to learning that what I learned was wrong, which is what I always tell people on my podcast, of Soul Tree Path podcast. Anyways, going forward, what I will cover with you is some information that you probably haven't heard yet, of how this is going to happen. Not just what is happening, but also like the science of how it's going to happen, and also specific times. And I did my research on what time in each time zone. I don't think I got them all the time zones, but I got a lot of time zones that I'm going to cover with you. So hopefully, no matter where you are, you can at least take a time zone that's near you and figure it out for your area. And I wrote down notes, okay? So I'm going to share with you the person, it's actually two people, that brought this information forward back in July. That discovered this information, that I know of discovered this information, but I can't share with you the platform that I heard them speak. Spirit tells me that that platform is very sacred, and who's ever meant to go to that platform and listen to that will be brought there. But I'm allowed to share with you the names, their job titles. They were just guests where I heard this. Okay, so you want me to move on, I bet. Let's get to it. All right, so I'm gonna read the notes that I took of everything that they mentioned. So that's why I'm looking down and up. So the names of the people is Stephen and Evan Strong. Those are their names. I assume they're brothers maybe, or related somehow. Maybe a couple. I have no idea. They have the same last name. So Stephen and Evan Strong. And what they do for a living is that they discover true origins and the history of our heritage through science. So they do a lot of, from what I understand, like digging for fossils and stuff like that, but it's not just for like dinosaurs, it's about our heritage. Pretty cool that they're on that mission, that soul journey. It sounds a lot like fun. So I'm going to hold my notes up a little more so I'm not just looking down. Try to look at the camera here. Make sure I got all my notes that are necessary. Yes, and then after I go through this, I'll give you guys the time zones, because it's not just that day. Okay, it's a specific time. So first the what and then the how. It is for 9 p.m. in Australia, which is where it all starts. Okay, this is where the energy shift starts, and that's what it is. It's an energy shift, a frequency shift. most of you probably know, but some of you maybe you don't, that everything has energy and a frequency, and even the planet, all things. And if you look up Schumann resonance, that is a technology system that measures the frequency of the planet, and it's being watched very closely by, call it the spiritual community, but it's more than that. You know, I'd hate to label it, but in general, spiritual community. And as it raises, the frequency has spikes and raises, that is said to be us raising our frequency as well. So that's what it's about. It's about the earth raising its frequency to shift us out of the third dimension, to seek past whatever dimension that we're in, that we can see, that we know of. You don't know about dimensions, you can go look for more detail, but in general, the third dimension is materialistic things that we grow up knowing, such as money to pay bills, wanting to buy things, thinking there's a limitation on everything, that, you know, there's a limitation on what you can do. That's third dimension. When you seek past that into other dimensions, you realize exactly how powerful you are, how you can manifest anything you want. There is no limit to anything. You are capable of everything. There is the knowing or seeing or feeling or hearing or all of the above of the spirit world. That's where psychic, you know, past the third dimension is where like the psychic abilities start to kick in that you can tap into. So I'll stop there because that's not what this video is about. So that's just in general of what we're going for, what this December 21st of 2020 is supposed to be about. It's about an activation within all the starseeds. Starseeds, souls that are normally a different being in the universe that have come here in a human body to help the planet go past that third dimension. Technically, everyone is a starseed because we all come from the same source. However, I think that when people refer to themselves as a starseed, it's not saying that no one, you know, that someone else may not be. It's more about their souls normally aren't human. Just to make that clear. Big, huge activation happening. A lot of people waking up. And if you've already woken up, you have gradually been raising your frequency and your vibration if you're following your soul's journey on your spiritual path. So on December 21st, this shift and this change will be tremendously easier for you than someone who's been rejecting the signs and the messages to follow their soul journey. Here's an example that these guys gave about how you may experience this shift going forward. And it's not just for that day. This is going to happen on that day and what it's going to be like going forward. Think of this, the feeling of this higher frequency. Compare, that feeling is comparable to Christmas Day, okay? If you celebrate Christmas Day, or even if you don't, there's many people that do, and so I'm sure you've felt it, where on that day, everything just kind of seems more calm and peaceful, because hardly anyone is working. You know, many people either took the day off or their jobs aren't open on that day. They're spending fun, lazy time with family, or enjoyable partying time with family, all the laughter and the music and the relaxing. There is a feeling about that day in the atmosphere. It's that frequency, because everyone, their emotions have made that frequency and that vibration raise. And so that feeling of Christmas Day is comparable to this energy shift on December 21st and what it should be feeling like going forward. I really love that they gave that comparison, because that is a great way to explain it to people that, you know, where it hasn't clicked yet of what this vibration and frequency means. And I took this note about what comes with all of this is partly of why it's happening. It's the only note I took that I heard about why. The note says to let go of fear and greed and similar vibrational emotions and actions. I can throw in my personal why. It's time for a change, for more and more people to wake up to not just save the planet, save the human species, save humanity, but to also save all other beings and all their planets. Because what we do here ripples within the vibrations and the frequency and the energy cords to all the other beings and planets of the universe, because we are all connected. And that's a whole nother video, but we are all connected. We are all one. We all come from the same place. What each of us do affects each other, and the human race is destroying each other. Even before all of this chaos happening with everything, with COVID or the riots or the shootings or, oh geez, there's more happening and I can't think of it, so I'll just move on. Before any of this, the human race was destroying each other. And that is why all of this started. They all connect. All the dots connect. It's not a crappy year of 2020 and then all of a sudden it's ending. What's going on now isn't us destroying each other and the planet destroying itself and us. We were doing that before. Now we're fixing it. A lot of times, the majority of the times, when you have to fix things, you have to take it apart first. Think about that. Like, you can't fix a leaky pipe without taking it apart and putting it back together with something brand new. That's what's going on. That was my own. my own tapping into. I'll go back to the notes, you guys. I'm sorry. Okay. So that is what they talked about what's happening. Now I move into the how. And remember, this is all from the guys Stephen and Evan Strong, who are discovering the origins and history and heritage through science, okay? This is how, in science, it's going to happen. In Australia, there is a box made of rocks within a rock. Okay. Basically, like, you know, crystals and gemstones, like amethyst, emeralds, obsidian. Most likely you're familiar with all of that, but if you're not, they have their own frequency and healing abilities and other abilities. They have a consciousness themselves, and they help us in many ways. And so that's what they're talking about, a box made of rocks within a rock. It's those types of crystals and gemstones and rocks. And this is what I have to say about that. I really resonate with that, and I believe them, because all this time on my soul's journey, with the understanding and even witnessing and experiencing crystals and stones healing me. I had like physical proof. It wasn't just I believe it, so it is. I had the proof of it. But I always had this knowing within me that they're not fully doing what they're capable of, but it's not because they don't want to or they necessarily can't. I always felt like there's going to be a day that comes when they all just kind of activate and they're going to show us their true power. Kind of like when, if you learn about Atlantis times, they use crystals and stones and rocks to run their cities, if that's what they were called, for power, like I'm talking electricity power, for portals, for transporting, like it was all ran by that, and their physical healing abilities and mental healing abilities, they all came from the crystals and rocks. And I always felt like one day they're just gonna be activated. Like Spirit gave me that message in meditation once. It was a couple years ago, and I just always knew it and felt it. And then when these guys said that this box made of rocks, they will be activated. And I just couldn't believe it. Like, wow, the dots are connecting. That's pretty crazy. So anyways, what else do I have written down here? Okay, so then these energies within those crystals, within that box, when they get activated, their energies get amplified and jump from one sacred spot to the next, where a bunch of these are hidden below the surface. And the energy follows along these ley lines. And that's another synchronicity in my own personal life. I keep being told by Spirit to look into ley lines, to go to a ley line, to connect with the ley lines. It's like, I tried looking on a map, that I can't figure out where one is near me. But, so anyways, and then this information comes about, and I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, okay, I get it. So the energies start in Australia, and they get activated, and the energies follow the ley lines. And that's not just a spiritual thing if you're unfamiliar with them. That's a scientific thing. Like, go research it. Those are energetic chords discovered by science and known by the spiritual community as something more than just energy. Anyways, so that's how it spreads. That's when the activation happens. And within the areas where they activate, which is all around the world, so don't feel like you're going to be missing out if you're not, like, that, you know, maybe you won't have one. Everyone, this is going to affect everybody, but that's how it spreads around the world, is by following the ley lines to each sacred spot where these crystals are. And I wrote down certain amount of people oh, yes, that's right. A certain amount of people that have good intent and positive energy and working on themselves to expand their consciousness, to raise their vibrations, to come from a place of love and light. There needs to be a certain amount of people within that criteria for this to happen. And that is why there was a prophecy about the exact same thing, I want to say back in 2012, and nothing happened. And that's because there weren't enough people coming from a place of love and light with good intentions. We're not, you know, the source, other species in the world, other beings, like all of it, they're not going to let us activate if we're just always malicious and greed, so much greed. Oh, greed is like I hate greed so much, and when I see it in people, I have to walk away because it's just like, ew, God, you're gross. Get away. Anyways, so in order for this to activate, there needs to be enough people living in a place of love and light, letting go of fear, healing yourself, being kind to yourself, being kind to others, have good intentions with everything that you do. So it'll only happen if that's the way it is. I already talked about the ley lines. And what it does to us, it helps us raise our frequency, which I kind of covered in the beginning of the video. But that's what happens when the energy of this activation travels the ley lines. Because since we're all connected, even with the planet, with all things living, like what we do affects the planet, what the planet does affects us. So with the energy frequency raising the vibration of the planet, it then in turn raises our vibration, and vice versa. So it's also like expanding our consciousness. It's like a big jump. It's like a boom, like especially if you've been working on yourself. So not everyone is going to be affected by this, because if you just don't care, don't believe, don't want anything to do with expanding your consciousness, seeing past the 3D reality, or working on yourself even, like if you don't want anything to do with that, if you don't care about that, if you're ignoring the signs to do it, like it's not going to affect you, because you already told the universe it's not for you. You don't want expansion. So the universe will listen and you won't be affected. But if you're on that path, then get excited, because all your hard work will be paid off. It's a cleansing of the planet. I wrote that down, and Spirit told me, don't forget that part. Do not forget that part. It's a cleansing of the planet. And if this can't happen, this is the one part that kind of resonates with the world ending. If this doesn't happen, the planet will reclaim itself. Those were their words. How would you like to translate that? How do you feel about those words? Because I can go on and on about what I think of what that means. I could be wrong. Or someone else might have a different perspective that makes me think, oh, you know what? You might be right. If this doesn't happen, the planet will reclaim itself, because this activation is cleansing of the planet. Does that mean if the activation doesn't happen, then the planet is just fed up and says, I had enough, since you're not going to raise up and help humanity and help the planet and see what is and what isn't, see the reality of the reality? Then the planet fights back with its weather and destruction. Is that what that means? That's how I first initially took it. I could be wrong. But, okay, and then I also have here, getting rid of the old to make room for the new. That is everything that someone could relate to when they're working on themselves. You got to get rid of your fears to make room for your confidence. You have to, I mean, it's just, if you work on yourself, you fully resonate with how you have, when you heal yourself, you get rid of what no longer serves you, and then you bring in what now resonates with you. And so this activation, how I take that line that these guys said, getting rid of the old to make room for the new, I believe that is meant for both humans and the planet. It will help us, like if we've been working really hard on something about ourselves, I'll use me for an example. Self-love with my body image, because I love me. But I've been working for at least a year. I've been super dedicated on working on loving my own body image. And I felt like there's been no results. But I feel like with this line that they said about this activation on December 21st, I feel like that's the day where it's going to be like, good job, good work, bam, now you love yourself, you know, like something like that. It excites me. I want to believe that. I'm going to believe that. But I also believe that this line is also meant for the planet. I don't personally believe that it's going to be killing off people that aren't raising their vibration. That is not what I think they meant. Even if it is what they meant, that's not what I believe is going to happen. But you interpret it your way. Now here, okay, this is the last thing I'm going to say before I go into the time zones of where you live, when you are going to first recognize on that day this frequency shift. They mentioned, and I don't think this was their words, but they had mentioned something about starseeds. Oh, that's right. It was the host that was interviewing these guys. This person said all the starseeds will raise up all at once. The host that said that wasn't referring to this day. It was just something that they mentioned as what I don't know if they predict, if it was a psychic or intuition, and it wasn't meant for this day specifically. But I've heard a couple other people within the last year and a half say the same thing. And I believe that on that day, all of us starseeds are going to be activated, if there's enough of us for this to happen, like I had mentioned in the earlier notes. And we're going to know that what needs to be done. And I don't know what to expect from it. I don't know what we're going to do with it. I don't know if we just all start marching somewhere and like kind of take over the system, or if it's more of a we all are activated and we raise up and we just know to go to a certain place. I don't know what that means. I just have a feeling and a knowing that it is true, but I don't know how it's gonna pan out when we're all activated. And because I've heard multiple people say that, and especially this person saying it on this during this interview, I feel like the dots connect with December 21st of 2020 being the day where all the starseeds are just activated. Now, the tricky part is that they did not cover. Are we gonna feel this and experience it and everything that comes with it the second all of this is activated? Or is it going to be something that we gradually grow into? Is it going to take a day to notice and discover and just to know? Is it going to take a week? Is it going to take a year? Is it going to take 1 minute? They did not cover that. My personal opinion, we would feel it, because I've felt frequency shifts many times, and that's how I was brought to look at the Schumann resonance, resonance, whatever. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Because I'd be laying in bed, not being able to sleep, 3 a.m, and then I felt like this energy wave just like hit and passed through my body, and I'm like, what the hell was that? And I think I Googled it. It was like, I knew it was an energy shift. It wasn't a spirit passing through me. Like, I knew it was energy, and I Googled it, and then that's how I learned about the Schumann resonance that measures the frequency of the planet. And it showed at the time that I felt that there was a big spike. I think the graph makes it look like this, but when you think of a spike, you go like that. Anyways, you get my point. And because I felt that spike, I believe when this is activated, it's just going to turn on, and as the energies pass through all the ley lines, and when it gets into your area, you're just going to feel it, and then shit's going to happen. Did I go that entire time without swearing until now? Once again, my video cannot be for youngins. Oh, I went 30 minutes without swearing. Okay, so now, what you're probably all waiting for, the last part of the video. What time zone? At what time will this happen for you? The very first initial action, when it first activates, is 9 p.m. in Uluru, Australia. I apologize if I'm not saying that right, so I'll spell it out in case you're like, what? Uluru, 9 p.m. Uluru, Australia. That's when it happens. And so it's not 9 p.m. for everybody. So here are the time zones for other areas. Starting with the U.S., we got 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, 7:30 a.m. Mountain Time, 6:30 a.m. Pacific Time, 5:30 a.m. Alaska, 3:30 a.m. Hawaii, 2:30. So now moving on. I have here 2:30 p.m. for London, UK, 10:30 p.m. Tokyo, Japan, 10:30 a.m. for Brazil, Brasilia. Did I say that right? Brasilia, Brazil. That's pretty cool. 8:30 a.m. in Peru, 3:30 p.m. in Egypt, 4:30 p.m. in Moscow, Russia, 7 p.m. in India, 9:30 p.m. in China. Those are all the time zones that I had written down, that I had looked up. I did my best to get as many as possible. So hopefully, if you're not in one of those time zones, you should at least be close enough to one to where you can easily figure out where it is in your time zone. So, I would love to hear your comments on it. You want to hear the names of the guys again? Stephen and Evan Strong, if you want to look them up. Once again, Spirit won't let me share with you where I heard this interview, because it is a sacred place that only people who are brought to it by Spirit is meant to hear it. but it's not their interview that you're not meant to hear. It's the place I heard the interview. So anyways, those are all my notes, all the time zones I figured out for you. I think I'm done. I want to hear what everyone has to think. I did throw in some of my own personal opinions and messages from Spirit, but for the most part, everything I said were the notes I've taken off of those two people that discovered this information. So, anyways, hit a like on the video if you liked it. Subscribe. That'd be awesome. I have a podcast called Soul Tree Path. It's a lot of spiritual crap on there. Talking about dark night of the soul, meditation, raise your vibration, how to develop your psychic abilities, stuff like that. I also have an Instagram if you'd like to follow me. I don't post very often. Not a big social media person, but with that being said, love and light to everyone. Heal yourself, work on yourself, and be open to major, amazing changes. Goodbye.